G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a heavy flamer. This is a triple rotary barreled flamethrower utilizing the Gatling laser animations. This mod originally came out in 2019, so it is a proper vintage NIF bash job on this thing, and it just goes to show you how much better T6M has gotten in their modcraft over the years. But this one I think is going to be a lot of fun. So it's got a little bit of customization, so let's get into it. First of all, you've got the tanks, and this is like a primary receiver thing. If you go through these, you'll find better damage and a little bit of armor penetration. Whether that armor penetration actually works on the energy damage, I'm not really sure. But this Napalm B tank gives you exceptional capacity, better damage, and superior burning damage. So why not? 102 damage to start off with is pretty good. Now, for the nozzles, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, because the standard nozzle is like your standard flamer, and then you've got the compression nozzles, which will extend your range out a little bit for a little bit less in the way of fire rate, no pun intended. But the incinerator nozzles turns this thing into an old school Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas incinerator, or perhaps a new school Fallout 76 version, but it's cooler. So this thing will actually change it into like fireball projectiles that'll explode. Firebolts, I think they're called in Skyrim. There's a little bit of an arc to them, like you'd expect any incinerator to have, but that's fine. And the best part is that this mod description gives you absolutely no indication that it actually changes it into somewhat of a flamethrower grenade launcher hybrid. It just says you get better range but a worse rate of fire. But the science requirement, I think, makes a little bit of sense. So we'll throw the incinerator nozzles on this one, although I will be trying this out with all of the different nozzles, because why not? And it's got a receiver on this thing. It's got the same modifications as a standard 44 Magnum in the vanilla game. So advanced receiver, you bump that up to 210 damage. That's pretty good. And you can throw a reflex sight on. Not as useful for when you're not using the incinerator barrels, but if you want that, that's a little bit of a reflex sight that's taken from the minigun there. And of course, the legendary effect is there if you want it. Something like two-shot would be absolutely devastating on this thing, but let's not do that. I'm going to grab a couple more of these. I'll show you how to make them, and we'll get started. In order to craft the heavy flamer, go into your heavy flamer subcategory on your chemistry workbench, Margot Robbie not included. And for 3 flamers, adhesive, screws, springs, and steels, you can craft this thing. Also, 1 gun nut, 1 science to do it. Seems pretty low for the requirements, to be honest, but here we are. Alright, so it'll probably be easy to explain what I've done for them still on the workbench. This one's standard nozzles with advanced receiver Napalm B tank. This one here, with the extended range, it's got the thermite concentrate tank, which will give me a little bit of extra crit damage. It might be useful. Also a reflex sight for making the VATS use a little bit better, and an advanced receiver along with that as well. Alright, we're back at Immersive Gunners Plaza, and it is about to get hot in here, don't you think? So here is our incinerator nozzle on the end of this, and it fires projectiles like that. Pretty rapidly, to be honest. And I was using this before, just messing around with it, so I've got some idea of what weapon I'd be getting out of this, and it got me thinking. This reminds me a lot of the Meteor gun from Ratchet & Clank 2. It's same sort of fire rate. It's firing these hot projectiles that sort of explode on impact. Obviously, the explosion is a little bit bigger here. You can actually see the shockwave. See it in slow motion. It's going to look awesome. That's some mighty cool visual effects, Todd. But yeah, there's the reload animation. Yeah, you kind of use the force to hold that in, because you know there's not much there, and the animations don't line up particularly well. I think this foregrip thing that lines up pretty well. Actually, I think the fingers are clipping right through it. They are slightly, but in first person you won't notice. Also, if you've got a male character with larger hands, you probably won't even notice then either. Here is the standard flamer barrel, which gives you a nice spray. Look at that. Ooh, very nice. And here is the compression nozzle version. Again, it's got that thermite receiver, and it looks like we're spitting the flames just a little bit further. And it's courteous enough not to start bushfires, so isn't that great? And what we're going to do with this one, with this compression nozzle thing, is I'm going to try to use it in slow motion bullet time VATS, because look how little AP that uses. And after my 3rd target, it'll all be crits, so therefore it's going to be critting all the time. We can make maximum use out of our flamer, out of our critical capacitor. Hold up, had to reset, we crashed, but we'll continue, we'll get going. So yes, we've got extra critical damage and possibly guaranteed crits with this one, so might want to see how that works. But for starters, why don't we just carpet bomb the general area, and with this thing using basically 0 AP, and what I believe is going to be a 40 round burst, we could probably do a really good job if we just gun through the crap out of these guys. And we're still going, by the way. Still going. Still going. One more. And if I get them in a good enough spot, I can get multiple at once. So we could probably crit, but if they're standing still with this incendiary barrel or incinerator barrel, incendiary, it's a flamethrower. I think near enough is good enough, but since they're lobbed projectiles, yeah, that was a little bit of a waste because that's a 10 round burst onto literally nothing. That one went directly into the street light, but here we go, now we're getting into the guts. Oh yeah. It's like we're firing artillery mortars in the trenches of Verdun or something. It doesn't matter if we're accurate or not, we've got like a billion more shells ready to fire. So we'll send some more things their way, and oh no, we're in danger. I want to try this VATS gun fu thing out, but so far it's been pretty easy with our super mega ultra fiery grenade launcher. So hang on, we're going to reset again. Time warp. Again, as that one man once famously said before charging in, Leroy Jenkins. And we'll just activate VAFs and go over here and begin the flame cooking thing. We'll grill all of these guys. May as well add some criticals in this mix whilst we've got them. And we are critting from now on going forward. Now I'm hoping that we're going to get many Grim Reaper sprint procs in order to get our AP back as we're firing. I didn't mean that. I mean as we're shooting. Not, I mean we are firing, but literally firing. Anyways, so as expected, it's a pretty powerful combination. In fact, we've got to stand pretty close to these guys to get the maximum thing out of the flame. Oh my god, everyone's burning. I don't think the smell would be very pleasant, to be honest, but luckily we're sitting behind a computer screen and not cooking a bunch of a platoon of angry wasteland mercenaries alive. That car's just about had it. So we'll come out of this mode because, you know, we don't want to be too cheap. We'll go over to our normal barrel version. That flame going literally everywhere. I'm thinking what we could do is line up a few people and maybe hit multiple people at once, because it seems to be spraying fire in a very wide arc indeed, which I quite like. And we're actually out of proper combat now, are we? We're back into caution because we've lost everyone, and unfortunately being limited in range as a flamer, we have to get pretty close in order to get this to work. And why is that weapon so bloody loud? Get out of here. It's unfortunate that the lobbing trajectory is kind of flat, because I'd love to be like firing up maybe like 10 of those rounds and just letting them rain down on my enemies from above, but unfortunately that's not happening. They are quite slow moving projectiles. They have such a flat trajectory as well, so it's sort of like the worst of both worlds. If it had a little bit more arc in it, I feel like it'd almost be a slightly more predictable and easy to use weapon. But all of this range you get out from having the projectiles on such a flat arc, I think, is an advantage. But I will say that I do think that the projectiles should be sped up a little bit. Something to be like slightly more on par with your standard flamers and the incinerators from Fallout New Vegas and such. Like, there's that man in the casino in Prim who's is carrying one of these things, and you get shot by it, and those projectiles fly across the room at the speed of light compared to this thing. Anyway, so as a door breach weapon, would you believe it's an effective solution? Just keep shooting and firing it until they're all dead. And there's the reload animation. I don't think we've actually seen that yet. So, yeah. The model's not being as refined as you'd expect from the 6th Messenger these days. As you can tell, not quite good. It's held there by either the Force or sheer force of will. You pick. The question is, can we snipe with this thing? And I think that we're probably going to be able to. Firstly, we'll remove this guy from the equation. Don't want to get spotted unnecessarily. And there's Swan's reincarnation. And we can fire so many times. It's a 10-round burst, so we'll add a crit for these first ones to make sure they actually hit. And wow. He's being messed up. And I think that should be enough. Don't need any more crits at this stage. I think I've got a little bit too far on the crits. If I stop right there... Oh, there were still so many projectiles already heading his way. But I don't know whether that was just the extra flamey damage that was stacking there to cause that damage over time. But that was pretty impressive, but also cheap. So let's try something else. Also, classic holstered weapons normally doesn't work with heavy guns. They're not actually tuned to. So you don't wear this thing unless you tweak with some settings. And generally, heavy guns look kind of silly on your back anyway, because they're usually either clipping or so far out that they're hovering there anyway. So I couldn't tell you what it looks like with classic holster weapons, other than to say it's not there. Okay, so you joined me just outside where the Wendigo lives, and to start off this fight, I'm going to go over here and try to take out all of the little insects that live around these parts. And we'll try to get a big gun foo streak on our dude. There we go. Okay. Now we're primed for criticals. He hasn't really moved yet because we've been doing all of this in slow motion. But as soon as we get into range, we'll spin up the barrel and we'll start cooking his face. Yes. And hopefully, being a heavy gun, we can get lots and lots of staggers out of this thing. And since he's not moving very fast at all, well, that worked out pretty well. We got many headshots there just to extend out our damage a little bit. But now we got to sort of coast, I suppose. We could utilize the slow motion just to try to nail as many headshots as possible. Also makes these staggers easier to read because they're all in slow motion. Oh, Mysterious Stranger. Is he going to get instantly ganked? Who knows? Back away, foul beast. Actually, I remember the Until Dawn game. The dude used to carry around a flamethrower because it burned away the Wendigo's armor so we can shoot it with guns and kill it. So it should have been an effective weapon, and it was, so that's great. Also, shut up, phone, for that notification. Yep, definitely dead. Okay, well, that worked out pretty well, I guess. There's also a fight going on against invisible men over there. Also, funnily enough, if you shoot the ground with the incendiary projectile, it's very, very easy to kill yourself, so look out. Okay, so it's pretty obvious that the heavy flamer is powerful in the hands of the player, but how does it go with NPCs? I've brought Winter, Ayla, and Tammy here with me. Two of these are heavy gun specialists, and Winter because the irony of, you know, Winter using a flamethrower because Winter's cold. Yes, it's genius, I get it, but our target is going to be a bunch of bears, so look out. Now, what we could do to start off with is activate all of the crits in the world. All we need to do is hit 2 or 3 bears, and then we're getting instant crits for the rest of the fight. What I should do is try to cook the other bears through the big bear. If I can do that, that would be pretty amazing. Looks like the flames are getting through, which is great. And the hellfire is a raining down. I'm going to back off here and watch the show. Okay, the Mysterious Stranger has shown up and he's doing something. Oh my goodness. He's doing nothing but attacking me, which is okay because it's a little bit easier for me to dodge them than everyone else getting attacked by him. Look at that. Try to add some staggers into the mix. Tammy's hurt pretty bad. Okay, she's down. But she's gonna get immediately picked up by Winter. That's good. Maybe we'll add some criticals in the mix here since we're not getting any anymore. That's all we're getting for criticals. The Mysterious Stranger has shown up again. That might tank up a shot. Beautiful. And I think after all this time, he's still after me. So if we can get him stuck behind this tree for a brief moment, that would be good. Looks like they're holding their defensive line. So if I just stand in between them and him. Wow, Ayla's just crushing it. She's got that heavy gun specialization. By that I mean, like, I gave her all the heavy gunner perks, so she knows what she's doing there. You just haven't revived her yet. There we go. Couldn't figure out where to put the stim pack, huh? Anyways, that's a triple firing now. And there we go. Okay, so I think Ayla did the bulk of the work there whilst Winter was trying to figure out where to insert the stim pack, but... Well, bottom line is, we did the job, the bear is dead, and I think I'll call it there for the video. So that there was the Heavy Flamer. It's an interesting weapon, definitely a product of its time, which is not to its detriment, but I will say that T6M's work has gotten a lot better throughout the years. But still, a fun weapon to use as expected, and a little bit of a blast from the past, I guess. So thank you for requesting this thing, because I've had a fun time with it. Anyways, if you'd like to see this weapon in your game, check out the link in the description. It shall be down there. I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity that the thermite doesn't actually change the projectile things at all. I feel like that should be something that it does, but yeah, check it out. I don't know if there's an Xbox port. You'd think a weapon mod that's released in 2019 would have a port now, 5 or 6 years later, but we shall see. Link in the description if you want it. Thank you very much for watching, guys.